What's up, Star Wars fans? My name is Prince, and I'm an urban acolyte. And in this Star Wars chat, I want to talk about why Jedi cannot be gray. But before I get into that, I want to let you guys know that Amazon Prime is running a sale on the Blacklight series of lightsabers. You can get the Luke Skywalker green Return of the Jedi lightsaber and the Darth Vader red-bladed lightsaber for half off. So you can actually get both of those lightsabers for what one would cost, right? So it's almost like a 2-for-1 deal. So I don't know how long that sale is going to be running, but you can use my affiliate link and hop over to Amazon and grab those. And I do have to let you know, if you use my link, that I will get a percentage of the sale as an Amazon affiliate. But anyway, let's get to the topic of this discussion, and that is why Jedi cannot be gray. And I'm going to do this by responding to a comment that came in last week on my Luke Skywalker video from Christina Kirshner. And somebody would call while I'm in the middle of trying to record this. Anyway, Christina says, I'm not going to edit that out. She says, you seem to confuse gray with being a Sunday Catholic or something. Gray is the middle path, not some drinking whore around Monday through Friday and do some community service on Saturday and go to church on Sunday. Actually, I thought Catholics went to Friday night mass, so there's one mark against you. Gray is Ecclesiastes chapter 3. For everything there is a season, time to sow, a time to reap, a time to heal, a time to kill. That is gray. Christina, you just played right into my hand. The Jedi just did half the song, the Sith did the other half, but for evil reasons. Being gray is to use the light side, peace, harmony, and creation, and the dark, chaos, hate, destruction, but for good outcomes. Come on, you're smarter than this, Prince. I shouldn't have to explain this to you. You just hate the word gray. Christina, you probably shouldn't have ended your comment with that, because you know what? I am smarter than that. And I'm going to give myself a pat on the back. Because you just what was the line Vader said in Rebels, right? Your pride will lead you to your own destruction or something like that. Well, no, let me start with the whole thing. I hate the word gray. So Samiko, best friend, business manager of the channel, says that hate is bad juju, right? I'm not allowed to use that word. Secondly, I don't like when people claim knowledge for their own that they don't know, you can't prove. That's something that the Buddha taught in his Kalama Sutta, right? Don't believe anything, even if I say it, meaning the Buddha, until you've had time to examine it for yourself. So when you say, well, this person thinks this person hates this, they like this, that, like, I have a strong distaste for that, meaning it's like you eat something and you don't like it and you spit it out, right, because it's gross. So I don't hate other YouTubers. I don't hate their channels. I don't like the spreading of false information, meaning, like I just said, claiming knowledge for your own that can't be proven, or, you know, like I said, turns out to be untrue. And I don't hold back on calling people out for doing that. I actually called you out in a comment, my response, because you did that. I don't like that, right? That's a big no-no. Now, to get to the meat of the topic, right? I posted on Twitter that I was going to talk about dukkha and the concept of dukkha and why the Jedi cannot be gray. And I'm going to use that and bring it around. But first, I'll say this, because I'll admit I didn't read all of your comment originally. I skimmed through it while I was seeing other comments. But the book of Ecclesiastes, I would argue is one of the most Buddhist texts in the Hebrew Bible. So you say, well, the Jedi did half of that, the Sith did the other half. What the book of Ecclesiastes is actually saying, and I'm getting this from my Hebrew Bible instructor, Johanna Van Wyck Boss. This is her book called Making Wise the Simple, the Torah in Christian Faith and Practice. It doesn't get into Ecclesiastes. That's like her book from her first semester course that only deals with the Torah. I wouldn't be surprised if she's written commentaries on Kohelet, which is the real name for Ecclesiastes, and the fact that the Kohelet, or the preacher, is believed to be a woman, right? So I said this, including Ecclesiastes was your undoing for this. Johanna likes to joke and say that the opening to Ecclesiastes is shit, shit, shit. It's all shit, right? I think I mentioned Ecclesiastes in another video on Luke Skywalker, and then you go and pull that book because I said it conveys this idea: what has happened will happen. There's nothing new under the sun, right? And it conveys this idea, the same idea that Alan Watts tells in his story of the farmer and the horse, right? There's the farmer, and then he's given a horse, and it's a prize horse, and all the people are like, oh, this is a great horse. Oh, you're so lucky. You got this prize horse. And he's like, oh, well, maybe. I sometimes I call it a horse named Maybe. And then his son rides the horse and falls off and breaks his leg. And, oh, man, this is horrible. This is so unfortunate that you're... And he's like, well, maybe. And then the king or the emperor, their army comes to conscript young men because they're going to war with another kingdom. And they come to the farmer's house, and they're like, well, my son has a broken leg, so he can't go to war. Oh, man, you're so lucky. Your son has been spared. And he's like, well, maybe. And it's this idea that no matter what happens, you're always centered and focused, and it's, well, maybe. And Ecclesiastes conveys that message. All these things will happen. It is a response to the children of Israel got sent into exile, and now they're asking questions. Why did this happen to us, right? What did we do? How did we break the covenant? How we didn't keep Torah? And it's like, you know what? Bad stuff. I mean, like we had, there's this joke that my one of my professors, Dr. Gary Phillips, I haven't seen him in almost 20 years. Dr. Gary Phillips said Ecclesiastes has this philosophical view, right? It's ecclesiastical logic, and basically it's shit happens. You just have to roll with the punches, right? So you're telling me that this book that says shit happens, you just have to remain neutral, is proving your point? No, if anything, it's maybe in your mind, but it's really saying stick to the middle path that I'm talking about, not this middle path where you dabble here, you dabble there, and that's the middle. That's not the middle path. So let's get into dukkha. So Yoda, I almost said Oba. Oba is a guy I went to high school with. Yoda Yoda tells Anakin in The Phantom Menace, you know, fear leads to the dark side, right? Fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering, and suffering is that's the path to the dark side. And it's a very Buddhist thing, right? So you're saying that chaos, hate, destruction, this path to destruction, this path to the dark side that leads to suffering, it should be embraced, as well as the good and peace and love and light and life and birth, right? They don't mix, right? So suffering, the Buddha said life is suffering, but what the Buddha actually said is life is dukkha. And dukkha gets translated to suffering, but that's not what the word actually means. Dukkha really means not being satisfied, right? It's like there's a pretty woman I know, and I every time it's like I want to go see the pretty woman, right? And I've talked about her on the channel, but I'm not gonna say who. So I'm telling something based on personal experience, not made up stuff, right? So this pretty one, I always want to do things so I can see the pretty woman, and I'm getting a dopamine response from this, right? So it becomes an addictive behavior. But it's every time I see the pretty woman, okay, I've seen her. Now I want more. I'm not satisfied just to have seen her. Okay, now I can go about my life. Now I can go home, make YouTube videos, get lots of views to make the algorithm happy, and they promote my videos more, and my AdSense CPM goes up, and I get more subscribe. And that did happen for a while, but then I wanted to see the pretty woman more, and then you start wanting more, and not just to see, why see if you can taste, if you can touch, if you can smell, right? All these different points of contact to satisfy, because there's dukkha, right? And you can get more, but you're still never really satisfied. So life is a series of unending satisfaction. And if the Buddha had known about dopamine responses, he would have said, life is full of chasing dopamine responses to satisfy this need in the brain for something, and it leads to a series of addictive behaviors, so that you're no longer thinking mindful, you're no longer present, you're letting the monster, you're letting the monkey lead you instead of you leading the monkey, and you're no longer in control. And that's what the dark side is. The dark side is it's a pit. It's a never-ending pit, and you feel powerful. You have the illusion of power, of being in control, but you're not. So you do things like force choke your wife or your spouse and break their heart, and they die, and then you're filled with pain. So you do lots of really bad things because you are in pain, right? And so it's like another dopamine response. I'm doing these things to avoid dealing with the pain that I caused myself. How does that balance with what the Jedi are about being selfless, but you're doing things because you're very selfish, but do not know it, because that is the lure of the dark side. Oh, I'm doing all these things and I'm developing more powers and I'm so powerful, right? But you're not in control. You're not present. You're not focused, right? That's the reason when Obi-Wan tells Anakin, don't do it, Anakin, I have the high ground, and Anakin is completely focused on, this is what I can do. This is what I'm doing versus this is what's happening through me. Like Bruce Lee said, I don't hit, it hits, right? That's being in the moment. That's actually was taught in Ili Chin Kung Fu, right? I keep telling you guys, if you really want to understand the Force, just study Ili Chin. You'll have like all these insights into the Jedi, and then you'll be like, man, these people at Lucasfilm don't even get this stuff the way I do, right? A book I'm going to recommend, The Dharma of Star Wars by Matthew Bertolin. I think the light is reflecting on my copy, but this one is kind of beat up. I have the updated version. I read that book like 10 years ago, and then I was shocked because Rain Roberts of the Lucasfilm Story Group recommended that people read that book so they can understand the Jedi, right? So read that book, you will understand the Jedi. And people that say, why do you talk about Buddhism and Taoism? Read the book and you'll understand, right? Because that's what George Lucas was into. He was like this Methodist Buddhist kind of guy, and he was trying to he was struggling with these ideologies as he's creating the lore of Star Wars, right? Now, what are the Jedi? The Jedi actually were heretics. In a way, you're right. The Jedi were focused completely on the light, and when excess anything leads to violence, right? The Jedi were excessively obsessed with destroying the dark side. They became pawns of the Senate, pawns of the Republic, instead of being of service to the people. In their mind, by serving the Senate, by serving the Republic, they were of service to the people. But to be of service to the people is just be of service to the people. Be selfless. Be out in the galaxy. Don't worry about the politics, because what happened is, in their process we're going to spread peace. We're keepers of peace. They ended up they're keeping the peace by becoming generals and going to war and being tools of the dark side, literally, because, well, I am the Senate, right? They're serving the Senate. The Senate is a Sith Lord, right? Who says, I am the Senate. And that's the way the dark side works, because he got too big for his britches. And what happened is he brought about his own demise as well, right? He created a second Death Star to trick the rebels, and they blew it up, and he got thrown in a shaft, and the whole thing got blown up. He underestimated the power of the light side in his apprentice, and the fact that his son would be able to help him return to that. Now, why can't the Jedi be gray? They can't, because of dukkha, right? The Jedi, what they're supposed to do, if it's an enlightenment path, meaning when they die, they go on to ultimate nirvana, as Yoda did, as Obi-Wan did, as Qui-Gon sort of did, is that, well, he did go on the ultimate nirvana. He just couldn't manifest a physical body as a force ghost because he didn't complete the training. But his consciousness was preserved in the force, right? And if people, well, why didn't Qui-Gon show up in, well, then they need to add some little twinkle, twinkle, little stars to the end of Return of the Jedi. But Luke didn't know Qui-Gon, so there's no reason for Qui-Gon to appear to him at the end of Return of the Jedi. There on the Endor Forest Moon with the Ewoks and Yub Nub, if you're old enough to remember the original celebratory song. But my point is that the Jedi they can't go that path. You can't mix. That's not the middle path. The middle path is to realize that dukkha, all these things, they're an illusion. It's an illusion of power. It's an illusion of control. You can't mix the two, right? So when we look at Luke Skywalker going into episode 8, it's, oh, well, he's become gray. Just because he loses faith in the Jedi doesn't mean, oh, well, the dark side has its merits. No, I mean, this is really simple. There's good and there's bad. There's being of service, there's being a selfless person, and there's being a selfish person. You can't decide, well, I'm going to be selflessly selfish. I'm going to be selfish sometimes, and then I'm going to be selfless these other times. It's not about being a Sunday Catholic or a Friday Catholic. Friday night I'm going to go to Mass, and then after that, then I'm going to shake it in the club. It's more like, and I thought about this while I was on a walk Saturday, because I hate to say this because I said it in another video that you could do this, but it's one of those things that doesn't work both ways. But it's like being a Hindu Baptist, right? And Nancy B, the first Urban Acolyte subscriber to this channel, asked me back when this was strictly religion and meditation, if it was okay for her to. I think she grew up Catholic and then became Hindu later in life, and then her family's Baptist, and so the rules of Hinduism say yes, you can still be a Baptist and a Catholic because that's the rules of Hinduism, but the way the two religions work, actually they don't work. They're not compatible. So when we talk about, you can be a gray Jedi, you can be this halfway Jedi, halfway Sith. Well, you're not a gray Jedi, because that's a different philosophical view of the Force. It's a different philosophical view of the world. They don't mix. You're something else. And when we talk about walking the middle path, if I say Bindu was the thing in the middle, then that's not gray, because gray blurs the lines, right? That means he worships the Ashla and the Bogan, both. But he says, you worship the Ashla, they worship the Bogan. I'm the thing in the middle. It means he doesn't buy into either one of those ideologies. They're the things on the extreme. He's walking this path down the line, right? It's like on this, they talk about the kids from the other side of the track, right? That side of the track is the hood. This side of the track is the boony, the suburbs. I'm walking the track. So on this side is this side is that, but I'm walking straight down the middle, right? I'm not on either of those sides, if that makes sense. I have a feeling I'm going to have to do more of these kind of talks on the gray Jedi, the views of the Force, and pulling in Taoist and Buddhist teachings to help get this point across. But I've said enough. So what do you guys think about all of this? Let me know your thoughts down below, because I'm interested in discussion and not so much about theories and all that other nonsense. But if you haven't subscribed already, go ahead, click on that subscribe button so that you can take your first steps towards becoming an urban acolyte. Make the commitment to becoming the hero of your own story and become a force for change in your community. Continue to support the channel. Check out more videos. I'm trying to do at least 40 videos this month in July, so there's going to be a lot of long, intense discussions, because I want to dig deep into Star Wars and not just do that simple stuff. But anyway, thanks for watching. But anyway, that's all I got for this one. Thanks for watching. Y'all keep on breathing, and may the force of others be with you always. I'm not even going to edit that out.